Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Extra Lab podcast. Today, we're lucky enough to have with us Wake Forest commit Corey Campbell. Corey, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, Corey, committed to Wake Forest, and for most people who are watching this, or they're committed themselves, or they're an American. So, like, as someone from Scotland, how does that process look to get recruited?
To be honest, I'd say it probably looks fairly similar to how it would look for US-based students.
Hmm.
I was contacted by Coach Azuri, who's the assistant coach at Wake,
Hmm.
uh, a while ago now, 2 years ago maybe or so. And once the time was right in terms of with the rules, I was able to start communicating with him. And it wasn't a lot of people say automatically they knew exactly where they were going to go. For me, I did have my uh, uh, uncertainties. Obviously, it's such a big move to move away from the UK to move to the US. So at first, it was more a decision of, am I going to go to the US? Am I going to stay and go to university in the UK? And then eventually, I decided, right, I think the US is for me. Where's the setup? And I took a visit to Wake. I also visited Tulsa.
Hmm.
Um, I spoke with a few other good programs, but I just decided that I felt Wake was for me. I took the visit. I took my visit to Tulsa afterwards, and I took some time to consider. And I thought with the area, I thought it was a nice area. The guys in the team I got on well with. It's a great program overall, in my opinion. And yeah, I just thought it was for me.
Yeah, definitely. And we've had a lot of people who've been committed to Wake, like yourself. Like we've had JoJo on the podcast and other guys, and they've said a lot of similar stuff to you. So, like when you're looking at a program like that, do you have any goals per se? Just like getting in there?
I think a big thing to look at is how conducive is the environment with performance.
Hmm.
So by that I mean, is it going to be such an enormous transition that the first year is going to be spent adjusting to those changes rather than being able to focus on training? A
Hmm.
good thing about the week is freshman dorms are right by the locker room, by the track, and so everything's simple. I wake up, I go to my class, and I don't need to worry about getting a bus. It's all within walking distance because it's such a big change as it is. Big you don't want other things to have to consider is what I'm trying to say basically. And so I thought that with the environment being focused on performance, I think Coach Hayes really knows what he's doing. He's experienced. He's worked with both collegiate and professional athletes, and that's obviously somewhere where I'd like to go. I'd like to go on and go into professional ranks, and hopefully one day compete at the World Championships, European Championships, Olympics. And so I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing for me was just the whole package in general,
Hmm.
in terms of it's a great environment, great coaching, lovely area. It's on the East Coast as well, so it's easier to fly back and forth to the UK when necessary if needed. So
Hmm.
overall,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as you said, professional would be an absolutely killer thing to be part of, and you're well on your way. I mean, you're the fastest 15-year-old ever, which is pretty crazy to say. I mean, what was it like? Obviously, this was like a few years ago, but what was that like the moment and just getting into it?
well, that meet itself is such an electric meet. It's a really great meet, the Monument Mile in Scotland.
Hmm.
So being part of that, I got the call I think it was the day before the race that I'd been moved from the B race into the A race, and we
Hmm.
everyone knew the A race was going to be fast. So the boy that won that race, Ben McMillan, he's now committed to go run at Washington as a grad student. He ran 3:57, and just that race was just a level above the other races I'd been in, and I got pushed on so hard going into the race. In the back of my mind, I knew what was possible. I'd run a 3:52, 1500 sort of 2 weeks before, and I knew that there was a chunk that was going to be able to come off that. Um, and so I split sort of 3:47 and held on for the 4:05.
Hmm.
Knew roughly going into the mile that that was possible, that record. I think it was Cameron Myers before me, actually, ironically. And I think it was 4:07. So in the back of my mind, I thought, yeah, maybe. And then I crossed the line and I thought, gosh, like I've got it. You know, I had pushed so hard, but I didn't even feel it for the first 30 seconds or so because I was so in the zone, I was so focused, I was so excited. So
Yeah. how do you get into that zone or like even maintain it well in pain during a race?
It's definitely easier said than done. Simply put, everyone has good days, everyone has bad days, and that was a good day for me.
Hmm.
Um, I think focus is a big thing. Training your focus in training. You know, when you're doing reps, you need to replicate race situations. You need to be able to get into a 400, 500 rep at mile pace and 1500 pace and just switch off, go to sleep. And you
Hmm.
know, as you're hitting that time, you want to be hitting it as easily as possible. So because you don't want to be expending unnecessary energy in the early stages of those races. So I think if you can get to halfway and you're feeling good, you know, your body physically feels good, mentally, you're ready, you're switched on, and then you
Hmm.
can push hard at the end. That's how you push yourself to your limit. You know, sometimes I find it hard to actually go to my limit in a race because I think certain race situations just push you harder than others.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, once again, as I said, you're kind of on the pace to get to that professional goal. You know, you ran 7:56, I believe, this year. And I mean, it just quite the resume is coming together so far. What would you say, like, has been one of the biggest races you've raced in thus far?
So I raced at European Under 18 Championships
Hmm.
in 2022,
Hmm.
and that whole championships as a whole was such a great experience.
Hmm.
The race itself, I ran the 1500-meter heats, and nerves got to me. I definitely was really nervous. I'd never been in such an intense environment.
Hmm.
Um, for anyone that doesn't know, you go into a race like that, and the call room, so like where you sit before the race, it's 30 minutes long, and you're not allowed to do strides. You're not allowed. So you warm up an hour and a half before or so,
Hmm.
go into the call room 30 minutes before, and you just have to sit there. And you sit in a room with your competitors. And you know, I was sitting in a room with Niels Laros, and some other really great athletes. And I think just got in my head a little bit. So I came into the heat and I ran a bit of a fool. I pushed on too hard too early, and I just scraped through into the final with a non-automatic spot, which I mean, ultimately the goal was to make the final. So I made the final, but definitely could have been better there, and the experience will help me going forward. Moving on to the most competitive race, that was that under 18 final, I'd say.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of those guys, maybe on paper, it was slightly less competitive than a race, some of the races I've done before. But those guys know how to race.
Hmm.
You know, they knew how to cope with going off fast, settling down in the middle, and closing hard. Some of the
Hmm.
closers were insane of the top two or three guys. So like the all the boys on the podium really moved away from the rest of them within the last 300 meters or so, I'd say.
Yeah, and as you said, going into a race, you're going against great competition. How do you like mentally just calm yourself down leading up to that race?
Well, it's definitely something that I'm still improving on. Um, I think I have a lot to learn, but I think experience as a whole, if you can go into a race environment knowing that it's nothing new,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think that definitely helps. I think once again, replicating race scenarios in training, if you know that you're ready to race, then I
Hmm.
suppose that gives you an air of confidence to go into the race and to perform well.
Hmm. And with all your races and just as a season in whole, what does that look like? Training build up and just getting ready for these races.
So I got hurt at the end of last summer actually. I
Hmm.
actually got hurt at the Commonwealth Under 18 Championships. So I unfortunately wasn't able to race there.
Hmm.
And so that meant that my build up for this summer in turn sort of started last summer. So we went the end of August, and it was cross training for a while, and then eventually we hit a good base phase.
Hmm.
We targeted the European cross country trials in November. I didn't make the team. I wasn't a million miles away, but I was just a bit short on the day.
Hmm.
Uh, Equally, I was proud of that performance because it showed that I turned it around from the injury that I had. So going forward into the summer is what we're looking for now.
Hmm.
We've built upon layer after layer. So we've went from base block for cross, and then I did a stint of training in South Africa in which I increased the intensity a bit and got a bit more better quality work.
Mhm.
bit more quality work because the weather was so much better. We then went raced indoors, of course, the mile at New Balance in Boston and the 3K British indoor champs, and now we're back to more of a base phase, and we're
Mhm.
going to go all eyes on outdoors. So I actually planned my outdoor season today, and all the focus this year is really on being ready for the trials for the World Junior Championships.
There you go. And what does the weekly like training look like for you, mileage wise and just workouts?
So it varies. It's not the same every week.
Mhm.
We don't have we don't, at the moment. I'm not even doing specific session days.
Mhm.
So I'll do last week, for example, I did a threshold day on Tuesday. So I did an easier, lower load in the morning, and then the evening a bigger, harder threshold session, some longer, more intense reps.
Mhm.
And Friday, a more quality based session. We did 2 sets of 3 by 250 meters with a 150-meter walk, and then we finished off with a 1 by 250.
Mhm.
Pretty hard. They were good quality reps. We're hoping to get well coordinated at the high speeds. Even though it's a base phase, we don't want to be too far away from being fit. We don't want to be too far away from being able to turn the legs over. Some people cope really well with just ignoring speed and hitting all the volume and stuff. I don't. I like to at least have a little bit, some strides in there, maybe a harder workout every couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Between sessions, generally will be an easier day or a steadier run, but nothing too hard. I work my intensities out based off heart rate, and so I'm able to keep a good eye on it that way.
Mhm.
This past week, around 100 kilometers, so about just over 60 miles,
Mhm.
and to build upon last week, which was a build upon the week before. Um, I also implement a little bit of cross training, so sometimes I'll run for a little while and then I'll go straight onto the cross trainer just to bulk out the session a little bit, especially if I'm tired. Sometimes it's a good way to supplement mileage. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and what's like an easy heart rate? What's a easy zone for heart rate?
for an easy run, probably 70%, below 70% of your maximum heart rate. I would say it's quite important to know your maximum heart rate
Mhm.
because oftentimes you'll see training partners that will try and train at the same heart rate, but in reality, it's all relative. There will be people that have a maximum heart rate of 180. And for someone that has a maximum heart rate of, well, maybe 190, let's say, for someone that has a maximum heart rate of 190,
Mhm.
140 beats a minute is going to feel a lot harder than for someone that has a maximum heart rate of 210. My
Mhm.
maximum heart rate is quite high. Based off of a session a long time ago with a chest strap, I calculate based off around 210 beats a minute. And
Mhm.
so I'll do an easy run and I'll say, right, I'm not going to go over 147 heart rate. Oftentimes it's a lot lower, especially if I'm tired. It's important to listen to your body. And then if I'm doing a steadier day, say, I'll say, right, I'm not going to go above 157 heart rate.
Mhm. Yeah, and as you said about your season this season, you went to Boston for the Grand Prix. What was that experience like? Was it kind of weird, getting on that track to go against a bunch of like other distance runners from a bunch of other countries, or?
So the Grand Prix was a great opportunity. I performed not quite how I would like, but it was such a great race to be part of. I definitely would say that I learned a lot from it, and I learned lessons which I then took with me onto my next races in that indoor season.
Hmm.
So the couple days building up to it, obviously I got to meet all the guys. I met Jojo, who's going to be my teammate next year. That's obviously exciting. I look forward to that. Um, it was great to mix in with the other guys, speak about where they're going, what their experiences were like.
Hmm.
Overall, it was great fun. Like simply put, like I'd say it was great fun, and it's great to be in an environment with all the professionals and all those guys like Noah Lyles, Jake Whiteman, for
Hmm.
example.
And what's your thoughts like, experiencing a little bit of American distance running and looking at it and just all the figures in it?
So one thing I'll say is in America, in the US, they like to do distance running big. I think we could definitely learn in the UK. It's
Hmm.
important to have fans, people in the United States love distance running,
Mhm,
especially the 5K and the 10K. I've seen that, even watching the 10 last night. Such a great atmosphere. It looks like such a great atmosphere to be part of.
mhm,
The meets have large numbers of fans. That's not a common occurrence here. I wish it was.
mhm,
So I definitely look forward to being part of those meets where there is such a big fan base and people look forward to it. And there's so much more hype on social media, and there's a lot that people talk about the races. It really there's a point of conversation.
yeah, and, in America, obviously, we have, high school, like, running and just high school sports. Is it the same for over in Scotland, or?
In Scotland, it's not really based off schools so much. Generally, there are Scottish schools competitions, but generally things are done by clubs. So Scottish Athletics is the organising body, and they organise the Scottish Championships.
Mhm,
Uh, but it's not in the same way that you guys will train with people your own age and people your own year at school.
mhm,
We will train with people at our clubs. So it could be that these are people at university. They are people that are younger than you. There are people that are older than you,
mhm,
and people are coached by coaches at clubs.
yeah. And, when you're not running, what are you doing? Like, what's the hobbies you have?
I obviously spend a lot of time training. That's a big thing, but also I do have time outside of training. I like to speak with friends. I'm learning German at the moment, so I've got a few friends that speak German, and so that's great
Mhm,
to be able to practice with.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and this is like a question I've always wondered, but what's the best food in Scotland or in Great Britain?
in Scotland, I honestly couldn't tell you. To be honest, like a lot of our food is not British food as such. British food, you think fish and chips. Some people like fish and chips. It's not my thing. Um, like pie and mash is a really popular thing in England. Equally, not my thing.
Mhm.
I love Mexican food. I love fajitas. I love quesadillas. Um, yeah, that's definitely my choice of food.
Yeah, and when you came over to America for Boston, you've come over a few times, but what was the best like fast food you had?
Chipotle, 100%
Chipotle
Chipotle.
is that's my go-to too. What did you get at Chipotle?
I think I got a burrito, white rice, salad. Like I don't know what the vegetables were.
Hmm.
I think it was either steak or chicken for me, and
Hmm.
then obviously guacamole. And then I didn't get any additionals. Like I didn't get any like tortilla chips or anything like that.
Yeah, is there no Chipotles in Scotland?
No, there's a Taco Bell in Edinburgh.
Okay.
In terms of the variety of fast food in the US, there's so much more than there is here.
Yeah.
You go there and there's such a large amount of choice that we don't necessarily have here.
Yeah, America has a lot of fast food. That's definitely for sure. And the last question I got um, is, do you have any pets?
Do you have any pets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a dog. Her name is Lola. She is a she's an English bulldog.
Mhm,
She's quite old now.
mhm,
Bless her. I think she's coming up to be 13 years old this year, which is very old for a dog of her breed. So she's not particularly active. If anyone knows what bulldogs are like, they're quite
mhm.
lazy, and especially with her old age, she just doesn't enjoy walking. Like all she likes to do is to sleep and to eat. So
Yeah. Well, Corey, thank you so much for being a guest, and good luck with your upcoming season. Thank you everyone for watching. Till our next lap. See ya.
thank you very much for having me.